I've been to places most people don't believe exist. I've sat in silence for days in temples where the air itself felt alive. I've stood in deserts where the stars spoke louder than any preacher. And one thing I've learned in all of those places is this: the chosen ones, the real ones, are not peaceful. They are not always kind. They are not always composed. They are not always light, because they were never meant to be just one thing. You, if you're here, you've probably felt torn your entire life. Torn between wanting to heal and wanting to destroy. Torn between love and rage. Between building and burning everything down. You've probably said to yourself, "What's wrong with me? Why do I feel like I'm being ripped in half?" But what if that tearing isn't dysfunction? What if it's design? What if you're not broken, you're both? You are the healer and the breaker. You are the one who walks into a room and people feel safer around you, but also more exposed. You hold space for others to cry, to open, to mend. But at the same time, you can speak one sentence and shatter their illusions. You can look someone in the eyes and unravel everything they thought was true. And you've probably done that without even trying. That's not a conflict. That's your assignment. Because the truth is, the old world cannot be healed. Not all of it. Some of it must be dismantled. Some structures are too corrupted to be rebuilt. Some systems are too infected with fear, shame, and control to be reformed. They must be broken. And that's where you come in. You were born to both wound and weave, and to be the scalpel and the stitches, the flame and the water. The mirror that shows people who they really are even when it hurts, and the hand that holds them through the aftermath. And I know that feels heavy. I know it's exhausting. I know there are days where you ask, why was I made to feel so much? Why do I carry everyone's pain and still want to scream? Because you were never meant to be soft. You were meant to be true. And truth is sharp. Truth cuts. Truth liberates, but first it destroys. So many spiritual teachings will try to domesticate you. They'll tell you to quiet your rage, to bypass your grief, or to smile through your sorrow.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound spiritual lesson.
But you know, deep in your bones, that there's something sacred about your edge, something holy about your fire, something divine about your ability to say, "This ends with me." That's breaker energy. But that's not all you are, because after the breaking you stay. You don't just smash and run. You hold space for the pieces. You help others build something new, something real, something rooted in truth, not illusion. That's the healer in you, and both are necessary. You cannot heal what you're too afraid to confront. You cannot break what you still need validation from. You must be willing to be the villain in someone's story if it means being the liberator in their soul. That's the price of walking this path. You're not here to be liked. You're here to be effective. And ineffectiveness, for a chosen one, means knowing when to burn the house down and when to rebuild the walls with your own hands. But here's the part no one talks about. Being both is painful. You'll question yourself constantly. You'll try to pick one side. You'll think, maybe I'm just meant to love. Maybe I should just heal. And then something will happen. Someone will lie to you, betray you, gaslight you, and your fire will rise. and you'll feel ashamed of it. You'll try to push it down. Don't. That fire is your compass. It's not here to control you. It's here to guide you. The key is not to choose between being the healer or the breaker. It's to remember the wisdom of when to be which. When someone is lost in grief, you hold them. When someone is lost in illusion, you cut through it. When a system suppresses the soul, you disrupt it. When a heart is ready to open, you soften. That's mastery. That's spiritual sovereignty. But to get there, you have to face the parts of yourself you've been taught to fear. You have to stop splitting yourself into good and bad. You have to stop apologizing for your intensity. You have to stop pretending that you're only here to bring peace. Because sometimes peace must come through war. A war with your own programming. A war with manipulation. A war with the lies you were told about who you had to be. That war is where your real power is forged. I've seen it 1,000 times. People who were told they were too much, too loud, too angry, too wild are the very ones who become the clearest channels. Because they didn't numb their truth. They didn't silence their soul. They didn't fake love to avoid confrontation. And neither can you. So I ask you now, what would happen if you stopped trying to fix yourself and started using your full design? You're not here to be half. You're not here to be safe. You are here to be a force. But that force must be tempered. That's the art. The fire must learn discipline. The water must learn direction. The healer must learn discernment. The breaker must learn timing. Otherwise, you become a storm without purpose. So here's your practice. The next time you feel the urge to fix someone, pause. Ask yourself, is this a moment for healing or for truth? And then speak from that place. Don't soften your message to be liked. Don't harden your message to feel powerful. Speak from alignment. Speak from integration. Because a chosen one who is both healer and breaker and knows how to balance both is unstoppable. Not because they dominate others, but because they embody something so rare, so raw, so real that people feel it in their bones. They don't just hear your words. They remember something ancient when they're in your presence. That's the gift of your tornness. That's the medicine of your duality. You are not a contradiction. You are a revelation. And the world has been waiting for you to step into it not as one side or the other, but as the sacred fusion of both. In the next part, I want to take you deeper into this sacred split. I'll show you how being torn between roles is actually a hidden design, how your soul chose this path to create a new kind of frequency that both heals and disrupts at a level the world has never seen. We'll explore how to wield this duality in relationships, leadership, and your spiritual path so you stop burning out and start burning brighter. Because this next phase isn't about surviving your gifts. It's about activating them at full power. Are you ready to live as the paradox that transforms everything? If you've ever felt like you're living two lives at once, one that holds, soothes, and nurtures, and another that burns, disrupts, and demands truth, you're not broken. You're not confused. You're encoded. You are the sacred split. Most people are taught to choose. Be the soft one, or be the strong one. Be the loving one, or be the one who says no. But you were born to hold both polarities in the same body. And that makes you different. That makes you dangerous to systems that feed on predictability. Because when you know how to heal and break, you dismantle illusions and rebuild foundations. You become the change people pray for, but fear when it finally arrives. And that's why you felt torn for most of your life. Because the world doesn't know what to do with someone who is both sacred fire and holy water. But your soul always knew. Let's go deeper. The moment you try to choose one side, just the healer or just the breaker, you feel drained, out of alignment, like something's missing. That's because something is. Your wholeness. You were designed to be a living paradox, a walking contradiction. Not in confusion, but in function. Because only a soul that knows both ends of the spectrum can walk with people through the full arc of transformation. You can't guide someone through healing if you've never burned down your own false identities. You can't break through someone's illusions if you don't know how to hold them after the collapse. This is the sacred split. It's not a burden. It's a technology. And once you understand it, you stop trying to resolve it. You start using it. The healer in you sees the wound. The breaker in you won't let the wound become a home. The healer says, "You're safe here." The breaker says, "But you're not staying here." And together, they create a force that no system, no illusion, no lie can withstand. But here's what no one tells you. This duality must be trained. Because if it remains unconscious, it becomes chaos. You'll heal people who should be confronted. You'll confront people who need to be held. You'll swing wildly between compassion and destruction, between softness and fury. And that's why grounding is everything. You must root these powers in discernment. So let's get practical. Here's how to train your duality. First, emotional intelligence. Every time you feel torn between loving someone and telling them the harsh truth, pause. Ask yourself, is this love rooted in truth or fear? If it's fear of being rejected, abandoned, misunderstood, then you're not healing. You're managing. You're playing the role of the healer to avoid the discomfort of being the breaker. But if it's truth, if your love is rooted in the desire to see that person free, even if it means they hate you in the moment, then you're operating from soul. That's sacred integrity. Second, energetic clarity. You need to know when your energy is open and when it's being hijacked. Because healers are often energetically porous. You feel everything. And when you don't have boundaries, you start healing people who haven't asked for it. You start pouring into people who are draining you. You start absorbing pain that's not yours to carry. So here's the practice. Before you engage with anyone, silently say, "I choose to see clearly. I serve only from alignment. I do not rescue. I do not fix. I activate." That declaration shifts your field. It tells your energy, we're not leaking today. We're transmitting. Third, identity detachment. This is huge. If you identify too strongly as the healer, you'll resist being the breaker. You'll stay silent when you should speak. You'll abandon truth to preserve peace. And eventually, you'll resent the very people you're trying to help. And if you identify only as the breaker, you'll become disconnected, cold. You'll destroy for the thrill of it. You'll confuse chaos for clarity. And people will fear you not because of your power, but because you've lost your heart. You must hold both identities loosely. You are not here to be either. You are here to be whole. And from wholeness, you'll know exactly who to be in each moment. That's the mastery. Now let's talk about what this means in real life. In relationships, you will often be the catalyst, the one who triggers others, not because you're cruel, but because your presence demands authenticity. People will project onto you. They'll say you're too much, too intense, too cold, too volatile. That's projection. That's their unintegrated shadow trying to define you. Let them. Your job is not to be understood. Your job is to stay clear, and in that clarity you will become a mirror. Some will look into that mirror and see their highest self. Others will see the parts they've been running from their whole lives. That's not your responsibility. Your responsibility is to remain whole. In leadership, this duality becomes your superpower. You'll know when to challenge and when to nurture. You'll know when to disrupt a room with a single sentence and when to hold space so deep that people cry without knowing why. That balance, that's rare. That's what makes you unforgettable. That's what makes your presence a portal. And in your spiritual path, this duality will refine you like nothing else. You'll be called into silence and then into fire. You'll be asked to hold paradox after paradox. You'll be broken open again and again, not because you're failing, but because your container is expanding. You'll learn to alchemize pain without identifying with it. You'll learn to hold others without holding their baggage. And most importantly, you'll learn to live in the beautiful, brutal, sacred space where nothing makes sense and everything is true. This is the sacred split. You are not meant to resolve it. You are meant to wield it. Let me ask you something so deep, only your soul can answer. What would change if you stopped trying to be consistent and started being complete? Because consistency is for image. Completion is for impact. And the world doesn't need more consistent people. It needs more complete ones, people who can hold grief and joy in the same breath. Who can say, I love you and I can't let you stay in the same sentence. Who can walk into a broken system and say, I will not play this game. I will break it. And then I will build something better. That's who you are. You're not here to choose sides. You're here to be the bridge. And that bridge between destruction and healing, between death and rebirth, is where the most powerful transformations happen. In the next part, I'll show you how to live from this place. You'll learn how to embody this fusion in your day-to-day life, in your purpose, your relationships, your business, your art. You'll learn how to stop explaining yourself, how to stop leaking energy, how to become the living paradox that changes everything just by existing. Because the final phase is not about understanding, it's about embodiment. If you're ready to stop splitting yourself and start transmitting something the world has never seen, there's a moment in a chosen one's journey when the questions stop being about how do I fix myself and start becoming how do I live as all of myself. That moment, subtle but seismic, is the beginning of true embodiment. Because up until now, your life may have been a cycle of trying to reconcile your duality. You felt torn, pulled between polarities, unsure whether you're the one who brings comfort or the one who brings storms. You've tried to suppress one side to preserve the other. You've dimmed your fire to seem more spiritual. and you've cut with your truth when maybe what was needed was presence. But now, that time is over. This is the phase of embodiment. The phase where you stop performing healing and start transmitting wholeness. Where you don't just talk about shadow and light, you walk as both, unapologetically, deliberately, powerfully. This is where the real impact begins. Because when you don't need to explain your duality anymore, when you're no longer negotiating with your own design, you become the most dangerous thing to the illusion, the person who cannot be defined and therefore cannot be controlled. Let's get clear on what embodiment actually means. It's not perfection. It's not even balance in the way people think of balance. It's integration in motion. It's the ability to walk into a space, feel the energy, and instantly know this moment calls for the breaker, or this moment calls for the healer. And then you move from that knowing, not from your wounds, not from your need to be liked or validated, but from truth. That's what makes you a force. Not your words, not your image, not your knowledge, your alignment. People feel it. They feel it when you say nothing. They feel it when you look them in the eye and see everything they've been hiding. They feel it when you speak with a voice that carries both fire and mercy. That's what embodiment gives you, undeniable presence. But how do we live from this place without burning out or becoming distorted? Because yes, this path is powerful, but it's also intense. So let's talk about the 3 pillars of embodied paradox. The first is energetic sovereignty. You must become a master of your field. Because when you carry this duality, people will unconsciously try to pull you into polarity. They'll try to make you only their healer or only their challenger. They'll project their unintegrated selves onto you. And if you're not grounded, you'll start playing roles instead of living truth. So here's the rule. Never give your energy to be understood. You're not here to explain your multidimensionality to people who only see in black and white. You're here to transmit frequency, not provide comfort. You do that by staying rooted in your own body. Before every interaction, ask yourself, am I entering this from need or from knowing? Need seeks validation. Knowing transmits clarity. When you move from knowing, your field sharpens. You stop overgiving. You stop over-explaining. You stop leaking energy to people who haven't earned access to your presence. That's not arrogance. That's spiritual hygiene. The second pillar is devotion to discernment. This is how you wield your paradox with precision. You must become ruthlessly honest with yourself. Not everything that feels good is aligned. Not everyone who praises you is safe. Not every opportunity is sacred. You are not here to be led by logic or emotion. You are here to be led by resonance. Discernment is what allows you to say no to what looks good but feels off. It's what allows you to walk away from people who want your healing but can't handle your truth. It's what allows you to know the difference between a soul calling and a trauma bond. Without discernment, you will burn your gifts out on people who only want access to your energy, not your essence. But with discernment, you become surgical. You know exactly when to go in, when to hold back, when to speak the truth that liberates, when to say nothing and let the silence do the work. That's what makes you powerful, not your volume, but your precision. And the third pillar is creative transmission. This is where your paradox becomes art, service, and purpose. You are not here to just exist in your duality. You are here to express it through something tangible, in a business, a voice, a movement, an artwork, a healing modality that's never been seen before, a way of loving that breaks every rule. Whatever your medium is, you must build something with this power. Otherwise, it turns inward. You begin to self-destruct because the force that's meant to move through you starts eating you alive when it has nowhere to go. You are not meant to only feel. You are meant to create. Let me ask you something you may not have asked yourself yet. What if your mission isn't to be understood, but to build something no one's ever seen? Because every time you try to fit into something that already exists, you compromise your design. You are not here to fit. You are here to found. And that foundation must come from your paradox, not despite it, because of it. The world doesn't need more polished influencers. It needs more embodied disruptors. People who can walk into a room and collapse the illusion. People who can hold grief and beauty in the same breath. People who can say, I love you. And I won't let you lie to yourself anymore. That's who you are. That's what you carry. And the moment you stop apologizing for it, your life begins to transform. Not because everything gets easier, but because everything becomes true. You stop attracting people who want to be saved. You start attracting people who are ready to be awakened. You stop chasing validation. You start radiating unfiltered frequency. You stop trying to be understood. You start becoming unforgettable. Because truth leaves a mark. And when you walk as both healer and breaker, you don't just leave a mark. You leave a new blueprint. You become the point where people decide, I can't go back to sleep after this. So now, here's the final question. Are you ready to live as what you actually are, even if no one has language for it? Because that's the true initiation, to walk the world undefinable, to speak without needing to be agreed with, to create without permission, to love without attachment, and to burn without guilt, to build without apology. You are not just here to live a life. You are here to become a frequency that shifts everything it touches. And that frequency is forged in the fire of your own paradox. So go. Be the fire and the water. Be the wound and the medicine. Be the storm and the shelter. Be the truth that breaks and the love that rebuilds. Because chosen one, you were never meant to choose. You were meant to become it all. And now you are.